Hey, what's happening? It's goukigod here. Well, it's been a whole year since I last did a setup video, and a huge amount has changed, not only on my channel, but also in my setup itself. A lot of equipment has come, a lot of equipment has gone, I've changed rooms. So yeah, I felt it was a good time to do an update. I actually really enjoy watching these types of videos myself, and I like seeing other YouTubers' setups because it's kind of interesting to see the physical space behind the videos. It can also give you some really good ideas of how to improve your own setup and see some of the cool solutions that people have. So let's get stuck into this 2016 update to my setup. So the biggest new thing for my setup is it's in a brand new room. If you'll remember back to last year, my setup was in a much larger room, which sounds better, but it was actually kind of worse because I had too much space. So there was a whole bunch of other stuff in there, like a weights bench and a cross trainer and a bunch of other random non-gaming related stuff in there. So it kind of just felt like all my gaming stuff was just jammed in the corner. The main reason we moved rooms is so that we could put my son into the bigger bedroom so he's got a bit more space to play, and because it's a much lighter room and it's got a better aspect, so it's a much nicer space for him to be in. So this new room is about half the size, but it's a perfect fit for all my needs, and I actually prefer how cozy this room feels. And like I said, because this room is pretty much 100% gaming, it feels more like a dedicated space for that. One of the other trade-offs is because it's a smaller room, it's got much better acoustics for recording audio, and that combined with my new microphone means that you guys are probably enjoying the sweet baritones of my voice. Yeah, right. Anyway, moving on. So like I said, I think it's a much more cozy room and it's a better shape to fit everything in. In the old room, I always had the issue of my Mac needing to be in a certain position so that the cabling between everything, the capture card and the consoles all sort of reached, which meant that everything was kind of jammed together in the corner and it just looked a little bit awkward. So with this room, before we moved everything in, I spent a little bit of time measuring all the cables up and making sure that everything was where I wanted it to be and that it would all fit and work perfectly. I'll admit the TV is in kind of a weird position being in the built-in, but it's actually kind of good because it means that if we ever want to hide the TV, like for instance we have guests come over and sleep on the pullout, we can hide that away and it can become a bit more of a bedroom rather than a dedicated gaming space. And when you're sitting on the couch, it's the perfect position away and the right angle, so it all works. Now underneath the TV, I've just got a basic shelving unit and I've got some of the press kits that I was sent recently. I only got a handful of those, but I like to show them off because they're kind of cool and unique and not something that everybody has seen. Under that, I've got a couple of different spare controllers for the 360 and the PlayStation, and my HD PVR is just sitting there. I'm probably going to chuck that on eBay. Not exactly sure anybody wants to buy a HD PVR anymore because it's not digital, it still uses the component output, but who knows, we'll see. I've got this big Back to the Future framed movie print which I got for my birthday, and I'm not really sure where that's going to go. I think all these posters are going to come down and yeah, we'll reorganize that whole space. So my console setup is actually pretty similar to last year. I've got the three main consoles that I use up top, so that's the PS4, the Xbox 360 and the PS3. My PS3 is actually broken at the moment, which is a bit of a drag. And then underneath I have the same consoles I had before, which is a Mega Drive, PS2, N64, Dreamcast and a GameCube. I've slightly changed the way this is set up. In the past, all these systems ran into a switch box and then that switch box ran into my HD PVR. It wasn't a bad system because when it ran through the PVR, it actually upscaled some of these older systems to RGB, which gave you a better picture. But the problem is that I had to run everything through my laptop. Like the HD PVR physically had to be turned on and running through the laptop, even if you weren't recording gameplay, which was a massive drag, particularly if you just wanted to play one of the older systems. So I've done away with the HD PVR entirely, and now I have this HD upscaler. So everything runs through the switch box like it did before. Then some of the older systems that use composite run through the HD upscaler, then into the switch box, and then out into my capture card. It sounds a little complicated, but it's actually a lot better than it was before, and it means that I can capture everything using my Elgato. I've only got the older style Elgato capture card. I have been thinking about upgrading to the 60 frames per second one, but it's really a nice to have. It's not really a necessity at this point, so we'll see what the future holds. Underneath the consoles in in the drawers, you've got the same setup pretty much with all the games that I had before. I've had to clean out some of my last gen stuff, so 360 and PS3 stuff, just to make room for PS4, but thankfully it was just games that I wasn't really playing and didn't really feel like keeping. I had a bunch of different F1 games and stuff, so they all went on eBay and went, so that's good. Now my editing setup has changed hugely as well. I'm still using a Mac, but I got a brand new Mac at the beginning of this year. Actually, no, it was the end of last year. It was one of the brand new Retina 5K ones. So it's a 27-inch Retina screen. I went with the i5 processor. I would have liked to have gone the higher processor, but Macs are not exactly cheap, so I had to compromise. So I went with the i5 that has, it's got 16 gig of RAM. You can upgrade it to 32, which was one of the reasons that I got this model. It's got a dedicated graphics card in there, and I went with the hybrid hard drive as well. So it's got a small amount of solid state, which the operating system and a couple of applications run off. So the bottom line is it is a lot faster than my old Mac, and I'm not just a little bit faster, not just a lot faster, like insanely faster than my old computer. Video rendering, like no joke, takes about a 20th of the time. That's not exaggerating at all. Like a 6-minute video, 6-7-minute video renders in about a minute, which before it was 20 minutes or more. So that's absolutely huge and means that I can spend less time stuffing around on the computer, and just running all my applications is a lot faster as well. So if you couldn't tell, I am super happy with my Mac. Now, I've also got some new headphones for editing. I had an old pair of Sony MDR 500. I'm not sure if that's the right model. And they were excellent headphones. They lasted me for about 10 years, but they just snapped one night and cut into my head. So I figured, why not? I will get a new pair of headphones. So these are just really basic headphones that you can get from Audio-Technica, but they're really good quality. They're monitoring headphones, and they're perfect for doing video editing and sound editing. Now, I don't think I had this last time. I've got a boom arm now. This is actually just a really cheap one. I think it costs like $20 from eBay. And it's not the best construction in the world, but it certainly does the trick, and it means that I don't have to prop my mic up on phone books or anything dodgy like I did before. Obviously on the boom arm, I've got a brand new mic, another birthday gift. It is the Audio-Technica 2020 USB Plus. And so far I've only used it in a couple of videos, but I am super happy with the quality on this. So yeah, very, very happy. It's a fair bit more expensive than the Blue Snowball, which I was using previously. It's quite a big step up, but I've been using the Snowball for 3 years now. And while I think it's a very good mic for the money, this is definitely a big improvement. Now you may be looking at the back of the wall behind the computer and thinking, what the hell is going on there? Well, this is my poor man's solution for soundproofing this corner. Like I said, this room is pretty good in terms of acoustics, but obviously I'm facing right into a corner, which I have these two walls. So what I've actually done is this is mattress, and it works in exactly the same way as you would get from soundproofing blocks, like dedicated ones that you might buy. It's definitely not as attractive. It kind of looks a bit poverty, and one day, if I have the money, I would definitely like to upgrade to some of those soundproofing squares so that my setup looks a little bit more professional. But for the moment, it definitely does the trick. And it's a much cheaper solution if you're looking to get into YouTube and looking for cheaper ways to do it. You could also use egg carton, which again would look terrible, but would certainly do the job. Now, just on a final note, I would like to mention my Patreon. This is something that I've had to think long and hard about. I wasn't sure I felt comfortable asking strangers to give me money for YouTube. But when I thought about it, you know, strangers essentially pay me to do work on a daily basis. And, you know, I put a huge amount of effort into my YouTube channel. And while it's definitely something that's a hobby and something that I would do regardless if I was making money from it or not, it is still a costly hobby, particularly with upgrading all this equipment. As equipment dies, it has to be replaced. Obviously, games and stuff cost money. So there's a huge expense involved. But having said that, I'm not expecting you to become a patron. It's simply an option for those who are interested. And for the rest of you, please just continue watching my videos for free. That's what it's all about. So there you have it, that's my current setup. Anyway, I stuck a bunch of links in the description if you want to read about any of the different pieces of equipment. If you've got any questions about anything in my setup, don't be shy, be sure to leave those in the comment section below. But that's all I've got for you. I want to thank you for watching, and I'm out of here.